Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ben and Jacob Sports. I'm Ben here with Jacob, and it's time to talk Super Bowl 54. What a game it was, Jacob. The final score there was 31-20. Kansas City beat San Francisco. Really good game. A lot of cool stuff with that. But before we get into the Super Bowl, Jacob, let's first go through real quick. What did we think about the Super Bowl before, and why do we care? Jacob, what do you think?
You know what? I care about the Super Bowl because my whole entire life, I've been a big sports fan, whether that's basketball, football, hockey. Just kidding. Nobody cares about hockey. But for basketball and football, I've been a huge fan. I've always kind of watched and seen everything that's been going on in the sport. And then it wasn't until I got into college where I really just kind of dove deep into the stats and just kind of wanted to get a more of a feel of what really is going on within these organizations. And you know what is fascinating to me. And that's why I'm so interested in the Super Bowl. And I was very invested in this one because, you know, Kansas City Chiefs, I've had a love-hate relationship with them, a Broncos fan for a long time, so have to hate them a little bit.
Yikes.
But at the same time, you know, you got to pay respect where respect is due.
Yeah, really good game for them. And, you know, I've been into the Super Bowl for a long time as well. I mean, I've been following football since probably 2008. So all the way back to the Patriots. Bummer of a 19-0 season that got ruined by Eli Manning's one fluke pass. Don't get me started on that. But a lot of games since then. That the Super Bowl is just a different level of game. It's interesting because it's just so much pizzazz and so much of like the pinnacle. As I always say, the biggest difference in sports is between the team that finishes first and second in the Super Bowl when it comes to legacy. It's huge whenever you look back. So this is a big game for everybody. Everybody's out there running as hard as they can, playing as hard as they can. And this was a pretty entertaining Super Bowl. Now, I'm counter to everybody else. Everybody says, last year's Super Bowl was the most boring Super Bowl I've ever seen. No, last year's Super Bowl was really cool, but this one, it was a little bit higher scoring and it was good. So I enjoyed this one. And Kansas City able to pull it out. If you go look at the stats, Patrick Mahomes, he had a pretty nice night, especially in the fourth quarter as he finished the game with 286 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a score. He did throw 2 picks. He had some trouble early on in the game. But Patty Mahomes, as a whole, I thought San Francisco had a really good scheme for him, but then he was able to overcome it because I feel like great players win big games. And what we saw in this game, I thought, especially in that fourth quarter, was a great player just taking over.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Ben. When it comes to Patrick Mahomes, these last couple of games, he's really shown in the last quarter or the last half of the game because really, like what I was watching, and I feel like it's attributed to what they were calling on the offensive side of the ball was, you know, they were trying to do these quick, short passes because I feel like they were really scared of the zone. You talked about it last week on the podcast where you said that, you know, there's not going to be one-on-one manned up. They're going to be in a zone, and that's kind of dangerous to air out the ball when you have a team that's in the zone. But, you know, I feel like the beginning half of this game, you can really tell Kansas City was scared of that zone. And it was quick passes in the middle, no more than 10 yards. But then I feel like when you went into the fourth quarter, you definitely saw Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes saying, okay, it's time to open it up. And you were getting 25-yard throws, 30-yard throws. He was throwing the ball like he usually did.
Yeah, I agree.
You know.
Yeah, specifically late in that game, I felt like they really started taking more risks because if you look at that first half and really the whole game for San Francisco, their 2 deep safeties were so deep that on the TV screen you can't see them. I mean, they were playing deep. Yep. They were not going to let you beat them up top, but they were still getting some pressure. Like I was saying, like on last week's Super Bowl preview, I thought that San Francisco was going to pull out the game 27-24. That was my score prediction. San Francisco got the ball down for 24-20, and I was sitting at my house watching this game, and I was like, am I going to be right on a score prediction? Alas, I was not right. But if you look at this game, late in the game, the thing that really changed for me was Patrick Mahomes. he had a little bit better downfield vision and a little bit more intent to throw it deep. The back-breaking play for me in this game was on 3rd down and 15. The Chiefs were driving. This was their second touchdown drive to try and take the lead. And at that point, it was 3rd and 15. They had just gotten backed up after an incompletion that Tyreek Hill got overturned. Mahomes scrambles around for about 7 seconds, doesn't even set his feet, but flat-footed throws it 44 yards in the air to Tyreek Hill, who beats the zone in the corner for a big play. That was just the game turner. There's some quarterbacks who can make that throw if they are running, setting their feet, and launching the ball. But Patrick Mahomes, back-footed, almost off of his back foot, falling back, throws 44 yards downfield. I mean, the dude's just insane. That was the back-breaking play. I mean, the scheme for San Francisco is fantastic. What they do is they get the pressure and they have those zones. But the thing with their zones is you can break them if the quarterback creates enough time and your receiver is smart enough to find an open spot. And Tyreek Hill on that play was able to find the open spot. Then later on, Travis Kelce was finding the open spot. He caught a touchdown with it. Damian Williams caught a touchdown that same way. And just like that, the Chiefs, they, again, just start out slow. And then all of a sudden you look up at the scoreboard and you're down 11.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the greatest tactics the Chiefs did during their offense was they did that hurry up offense. And I think, like, if you go look at everybody who's reporting on it, like those front 4 guys on that San Francisco's defense, they were gassed by the end of the game. Played 3 great quarters of football. And now it comes down to the 4th quarter where, this Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs team is really starting to heat up, and you got to make a play, but you've been making plays for the last 3 quarters, the last 45 minutes, and now you got to do something different. Like it was one of those things that hurry up offense was killer for that defense, and they couldn't keep pressure on Pat Mahomes because in the beginning, like it kind of seemed like Pat Mahomes was rattled because he didn't have enough time to wait for his guys to get open. And I think that was why he threw that interception, is because he didn't have enough time to wait for his guys to get open. He made a bad throw.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the key was that hurry up change did really exhaust that D-line. But even more, this is where I want to really get into who I blame for this game. We'll probably talk about it in a minute. But for San Francisco, their offense, both times they got the ball late in that game, they barely possessed it for like a minute on the clock. So it was like, Kansas City gets a long drive. The defense goes to the sideline. And then all of a sudden, you're back on the field. Get back out there, guys. Get back out there. They had to go back out and pursue this quarterback. I'll just tell you, Jacob, I'm getting the feeling that the mobile quarterback is the way that the NFL is moving. Guys who can move but still throw deep. I mean, Patrick Mahomes just annoys defenses because he extends plays, and it just exhausts him. We saw that effect in that 4th quarter when it mattered.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think, if we're talking about San Francisco, they needed a mobile quarterback who's going to be willing to run around in the backfield and try to make a play, because not only are you looking to gain more yards, but also you're looking to run down the clock because you're in a great position. You're up 2 scores. You're in a great position, and you want to waste that clock as much as you can or go down the field and score. So you got to be mobile. And I feel like Garoppolo was definitely not as mobile as he should have been.
I agree. If you look at San Francisco's side, this was a game that I feel like they should have won. Honestly, I think that San Francisco had the better team. I thought that they were scheming better early on in the game, but the thing with San Francisco is they went away from what they're good at. And you're going to see a lot of people criticizing Kyle Shanahan, criticizing Jimmy Garoppolo. Honestly, I think both of them deserve a bit of the blame for this game, because if I look at it, after that interception, the second one off Mahomes, it's in the 4th quarter with 11 minutes left. It was 20-10 San Francisco, and they had just picked the ball off. They had 11 minutes left. They were up 10. For the San Francisco 49ers, we've seen the entire season, that's ball game. I want to see them cramming the ball down your throat with Raheem Mostert, with that wide receiver, Deebo Samuel, get the ball in his hands, get the ball in the hands of Tevin Coleman. They were gashing them with the run, and they decided, all right, we're going to throw the ball, which, I mean, It's just a catastrophic change of philosophy right at that time. And the problem, I don't think that it's that bad to put the ball in Garoppolo's hands at that spot, but you have to deliver. You have to deliver and move the clock, and they didn't. This was a game that they had in the bag a couple of times. They had 4 drives in the fourth quarter, Jacob, and they came away with 0 points. And I blame a lot of it on the offense not being able to score. I mean, the defense did, honestly, I think as well as we could have expected them to hold Mahomes to 31. If I'm San Francisco and you tell me pregame, Mahomes and the Chiefs at 31, I would say, okay, I think we're going to win this game. But San Francisco only got 20 points, and in that fourth quarter, they just didn't show up. And I kind of blame that on Garoppolo and on Shanahan.
I think for the majority of this game, I think Jimmy had a great game. I think he was making a lot of plays. He was doing a lot of things right. Like, you look at about the amount of yards he's got. Like, it was 219. I don't think that's a bad number at all. That one intercept, like, I'm not going to really look at the second interception, but that first interception was terrible. Like, just take the ball to the ground. There's, like, that was, like, a high school football kind of mistake right there. It's like, oh, I'm going down to the ground. I'm just going to throw it up as far as I can throw up. And it's like, no, that is just a dumb mistake. Yes, he deserves to get roasted on that. But other than that, I think, especially the first couple drives, I think especially that first touchdown drive, like, it was just, he was getting catches after catches. He was moving the ball down the field by throwing it. And they're like, okay, Jimmy, the first half really came out to play. And I really liked what he was doing. And then third quarter, I felt he did the same thing. But I also think it was because of the run game that they were doing so well with the pass game as well. It was a nice kind of balancing of the two things. But then you go into the fourth quarter, and all you want to do is throw the ball, and that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to put this one on Kyle, that's his name, Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, I'm going to put it on him because, I don't necessarily think it's all his fault, but he could have definitely made some better play calls when it comes to burning that clock in the fourth quarter. But at the same time, even if you burned a couple more minutes, it was still a 2-score game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
The Chiefs could have caught up no matter how much time you burnt off that clock.
Yeah, you see, here's the difference between Garoppolo and Mahomes, in my opinion. Late in this game, great players make great plays in the Super Bowl. In the fourth quarter, Jimmy Garoppolo went 3 passing and then had that 1 interception. He also had that turnover when it was on 4th down and 9. They needed it so desperately. And he just closed his eyes and flipped it up because he couldn't get the ball out in time. I don't love that. But then on the other side, if you look at Patty Mahomes' clutch stats this year, this guy finished the year 5-0 in games that he trailed by 10 or more in. Isn't that crazy? 5-0. Just one of those guys is a special player. The other one, in my opinion, is not. Jimmy Garoppolo, if he makes that throw to Emmanuel Sanders, late in that game on that streak route where they had him beat by about 5 yards, Garoppolo overthrew him by about 10 yards. If he would have put that one on him, we're talking about a completely different game. We're talking about the Niners winning the Super Bowl. He overthrew him, and then the next down, he took a critical sack. I just didn't see it. I was saying last night after the game, a lot of people have been criticizing, the Patriots for keeping Brady instead of Garoppolo. Brady would have won that game. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't show that clutch gene late in the game. They gave him 3 drives. If he could have scored on any of those drives, the Niners probably, so I put a lot of the blame on him. For Shanahan, yes, like I said earlier, stick with what you're good at. If I was him, I would have ran the ball. But it's easy to have 20/20 hindsight. He was being aggressive and believing in his quarterback, and he was able to scheme some guys open. I mean, he schemed open Kittle, and Garoppolo missed him early on. And then you have that deep ball that I just mentioned that he overthrew him. But at the same time, bad management there, and then bad management at the end of the first half. So I think that if I'm assessing blame, I'm putting 30% on Garoppolo. Actually, probably 50% on Garoppolo. I'm going to put 30% on Shanahan and 20% on the defense.
So, and I think that's a fair assessment right there. I think that's fair, but I definitely think more of the blame, it has to go on the time management. Because if you're a coach at that kind of level, those are the kind of things you need to be thinking about long-term wise. Like, yes, everybody wants an exciting game and everybody wants you to go up there and be aggressive. But as you can see with the Patriots, they don't care about that. They care about winning. They don't need an exciting game to be happy with the results of that game. Because last year, you said it a little bit, the game was people thought it was boring. I'm kind of on the fence because after watching this game and being more excited about what was going on in this game than I was with the Patriots, because I wasn't super excited in that game because it's like, oh, these people are nowhere close to the goal line. Like, what am I excited for?
Yeah.
But so it's a little bit different, a different excitement and a little bit more different entertainment. But by no means does that mean if you're in the big game, you got to be all out entertaining. No, you got to go out there to win. And I don't think Shanahan kind of had that mindset. I think he had the whole, go out there, be aggressive, and do what we always do. And I think when it comes to the Super Bowl, I don't think it's always that cut dry. You got to go out there and win. And when you're in the fourth quarter, up 20, up 10, and it's 2-score game, you got to either go down in a hurry and score a point, or you got to burn that clock as long as you can. Like, that's the two options. I think he tried to go for one. It didn't work, and he's like, well, let's try to go for it again. And that it bit him in the butt. Like, nothing else to say about that.
And, Kyle Shanahan, of course, he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. Everybody's been bringing this up, but 2 years ago in the Patriots game, you were up 28-9 at the start of the fourth quarter, something like that. So they blew that one as well. So if you look at the stats over the last 2 years, they've had, I think it combined, or 3 years, or whenever that Super Bowl was and this one, if you combine them up, Kyle Shanahan teams have had 7 drives and 0 points. So as an offensive genius, I think you got to put up points in those spots. So I think some blame has to go to him as well. But here's the thing. I think San Francisco will be back. I think this team will be defense. They've got some young guys, and I think the offense is better. I think the real question is Jimmy Garoppolo inhibiting your ability to win? I don't think he's inhibiting the ability to win. I think he's one of those quarterbacks, though, that you can bring to a Super Bowl and you can win with, but he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. The difference between Garoppolo and Mahomes, one won his team the Super Bowl, and one, the team could win the Super Bowl with him. And that's what we saw in this game.
Yeah, I think that's hits nail right on the head. I didn't think Jimmy Garoppolo was amazing, but I didn't think it was bad. And at the end of the day,
it's a good game manager.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I don't know if that wins championships. I think you got to have a playmaker, and sometimes, you got to, it has to be most of the time your quarterback. He may not be the one making the big throw, but he has to be the one being calm and composed, and that was not Jimmy in the last quarter.
Absolutely. I agree. Pretty interesting Super Bowl. Kansas City got the win. There were some people that were saying Patrick Mahomes didn't deserve the Super Bowl MVP. I think that's stupid. I think Patrick Mahomes definitely deserves the Super Bowl MVP because I think he was the guy that drove them back to win the game.
And yeah, I think the whole leadership that he just kind of, the vibe around him and the leadership he carries with him, I think that was enough to get him that win, or get that MVP, because, I look back on the game and I do remember a couple big throws, but I don't think they were key moments in the game. I think the key moments in the game really came with the defense putting pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo and him making some terrible throws, some terrible looks in that fourth quarter. But at the same time, there's no real outstanding player. It was just, wobbly Jimmy and a big man with his hand in his face. Who is that? Nick Jones or Chris Jones? Is that
Chris Jones?
Jeez Louise. Almost every single play, he had his hand on that ball. That was crazy. But no, it was I definitely feel like, Mahomes deserved it.
Here's the question, Jacob. Is this the start of a new Kansas City Chiefs dynasty?
No.
No.
I really don't think so.
That's interesting. I've seen a lot of people, especially Max Kellerman from ESPN, now saying that Mahomes is the GOAT after that game and that this is the start of the Chiefs dynasty. And I tend to fall on your side of it, Jacob. I think that this is about to be a Brett Favre with the Packers type run where they're in it every year, or maybe an Aaron Rodgers with the Packers type run. They're really in it every year, but I just don't know, because right now the Kansas City Chiefs are playing with house money because this is Mahomes' third year. But give it to the end of next year, and Patrick Mahomes is going to set the record for quarterback or player money in the NFL. I mean, he's at that point right now where he could go to the Chiefs and literally ask for whatever number he wants, and they would have to give it to him, I imagine, because he's Patrick Mahomes and he's your star quarterback. You have him, you don't really have much else. I mean, the cap is about to up in terms of space. You're going to have Patrick Mahomes coming in. There's rumor of a 17th game. I would not be stunned if Patrick Mahomes makes $50 million a year guaranteed. So that's going to really affect what players you can put on the field with him, because right now he's making, I want to say like $6 million a year because he was the 12th pick in the draft from Texas Tech. So you're not going to be able to pay Kelsey these weapons at the same time, Sammy Watkins, the great O-line, the defensive playmakers. So the question will be, is Mahomes good enough to carry a team around him that doesn't have as many playmakers as they have now? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I definitely
think they'll be in the conversation.
I definitely think they'll be in the playoffs for the next couple of years. But my whole thing is, when it comes to building a dynasty like you have with the Patriots, it really becomes on, is everybody bought in? And I look at the players on the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't see it, because you have a lot of stars who are okay separating themselves with the Kansas City Chiefs brand. But then I look at the Patriots, and there's not a lot of individuals who want to go anywhere else and play anywhere else because they're so invested. I would put Gronk up there as an example. Is he didn't want to go play anywhere else. He didn't want to be the second guy. He wanted just his ride to end. He ended at the very top of his game, and that was it. Like, he was part of the biggest dynasty in football history. And I think Tom Brady, I feel like he says, or a lot of people say, like, he may be willing to go to another team, but I really don't think he will be. I don't think he would. I don't either. Do anything like that, because they've bought into this brand of football that, we are the top dogs. We're going to be part of the conversation no matter what you put in front of us. And it's just a whole different mentality there. And when it comes to Kansas City, I don't think they have that mentality.
Well, we'll have to see. I think that their window for easier Super Bowl wins is these next 2 years before you have to pay Patrick Mahomes. Because another key factor in that Super Bowl run you mentioned for New England is Tom Brady's been taking pay cuts so they could have around him. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm interested to see what happens with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think San Fran will be back next year. I think that we have a lot of talent in the NFL right now, and I think that this Super Bowl showed me that you need to have a dynamic, a moving quarterback to really be a threat. And Patrick Mahomes showed us that in that game. That's my official take from this game. Big win for Kansas City. And for San Francisco, the question will be, will it break them? And I don't think it will.
No, not at all.
Let's move on. So we had some NFL awards come out, of course, this season. Stuff happened when it came to that. Let's start off with the MVP. Lamar Jackson, he was named the unanimous MVP, one of the first ones to get that award unanimously. Jacob, your thoughts on this?
I think it's exactly who it needed to be given to. That award is the most valuable player in the league. And I would say that would indeed be Lamar Jackson, because he is a trendsetter. He is something that I feel like we haven't seen in a while. Everybody saw him last year, and he's there. They made the jokes that he is just a running back at the quarterback position. but he did a great job being a running back at the quarterback position. And then this year, everybody's like, okay, let's get ready to see him run some more. And then he changed it all up. He's like, no, I can actually throw too. And I think that's the most impressive thing I've ever seen. And the most shocking thing I've ever seen is this guy who's proclaimed to be the running back quarterback be like, no, I'm going to be the quarterback to do it all. And so far, so good. But, you got to win a playoff game.
Yeah, and it's obviously a regular season award, but you're right. The playoff resume thing, people are going to be talking about that until next year. But this year was truly revolutionary with Lamar Jackson, man. It felt like he was the best athlete on the field when he was out there, just insane. The question will be now, will the NFL adjust to him in kind of his second year of being the full-time superstar? Because he really added a lot to his game this year, and the Ravens had a really interesting scheme. Greg Roman got the assistant coach of the year for what he brought into them. I don't know. We'll find out. But for right now, Lamar Jackson, I'm very happy with him getting the MVP. I thought that was very well deserved. However, the one major award that I disagreed with was the offense of the year. Kyler Murray was named that for the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know if the NFL committee, these people who decided this, were paying attention to the Raiders. But Josh Jacobs at running back, from Alabama, that guy was a horse. I mean, he was the offense for the Raiders because they had basically nothing else with the Antonio Brown drama. They had him and Darren Waller, and that was it. And that was enough for them to be in a position. They started off the season, I think, 4 or something. It was a really nice year for Josh Jacobs at running back. I know it's easy to pick the QB over the running back, but I thought that he was more deserving.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think, I'm not a big fan of the Raiders. Broncos fan here, and never been a big fan of the Raiders. But, man, it's one of those things where, you hate to see your team lose to a team that you're not supposed to like. But the Raiders, they have something going on over there. They still are going to need to build. But at the same time, I like what they're showing with this young team.
I agree. This is kind of a side note, but I think watch out for the Las Vegas Raiders next year because Antonio Brown, all that drama, they're not going to have to deal with that. But here's the thing. If you look at the Raiders injuries, they lost Jonathan Abram at safety, who I thought was going to be one of the best rookies this year. He's going to be back. So you add him on to the fact that they're going to have one of the best draft classes. I think they've got 7 picks in the first 4 rounds. They're just going to reload. They have a ton of cap space. Watch out for those guys this year. But that's kind of a side note. But nothing against Kyler Murray for this award. I mean, he did a good job with a bad O-line to make the Cardinals at least give a lot of people a game. I think the Cardinals may have their franchise QB in Kyler Murray. I like him a lot, and I think he's definitely the best QB to come out of this last year's draft. I think Dwayne Haskins is still second. Danny Dimes is third. And then I'm not a huge fan of Gardner Minshew, but, whatever on that one. Then Defensive Rookie of the Year was Nick Bosa. Do you have anything to say about that, or can we just both agree on it?
There's nothing to discuss about this. He definitely was a monster. It's crazy when a kid from college can come into the NFL and look like a man amongst boys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because that's exactly what he does when he goes on the football field. And you know what? I think it's deserved.
Mm-hmm. I thought Joey Bosa was amazing, but Nick Bosa makes Joey Bosa not look very good. Defensive end. Nick Bosa, if I'm not a betting man, but if I was going to put my money on anybody for Defensive Player of the Year next year, Nick Bosa is my pick.
That's a smart pick. Smart pick.
So Offensive Player of the Year. It's always interesting to me, the Offensive Player of the Year. It usually goes to the QB who gets MVP, but sometimes it goes to somebody different. This year it went to somebody different. Michael Thomas, wide receiver, New Orleans. He was able to win it. What'd you think?
I think this is a good pick. New Orleans has always been one of those teams where they're always going to be talked about. And I think Michael Thomas has done a great job this year. I don't have a whole lot to say, I didn't really watch any Saints games, but I looked at the stats.
Yeah, he was
killing it.
He was killing it. I think Michael Thomas is really deserving of this. Low key, I thought he was going to get some MVP votes as well because this year he set the record for the most catches by a wide receiver in a season. He was amazing the entire year. But here's the thing. Teddy Bridgewater was the QB for the Saints for like 6 games. It wasn't even with Drew Brees throwing him the ball all the time. So he was the key guy on that Saints offense. And I felt like every week I'd watch New Orleans, I was like, all right, the team is playing against him. They're going to throw it to Michael Thomas 15 times. Yeah. Stop him. I felt like he would finish the game with 12 catches for 130 yards. And I'd be like, what are we doing? What are we doing on defense? Yeah. But that's just the kind of player he was.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then defensive player of the year, they gave that to Stephon Gilmore, defensive cornerback from the New England Patriots. Now, I'm a Patriots fan. Let me get that bias out of the way. But I thought this was a great pick. He was locked down this season. Everyone he played, he was all over them. And they had really no luck making big plays downfield until we got to the playoff game against the Titans. Well, actually, in the playoff game against the Titans, A.J. Brown only had 1 catch. But Stephon Gilmore, amazing corner. I'm really happy with this pick. I think this is the first time in a long time, Jacob, it's been a cornerback to win Defensive Player of the Year. I felt like it's always DNs or linebackers. So good on him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think – when you are able to impress the committee or whoever votes on it that, hey, this cornerback is the guy. He's the guy that makes the plays on this team, and he's able to just win this award. I think it's well-deserved. I think he did a great job.
Mm-hmm. I think he stole Amari Cooper's heart in the Cowboys game. I don't think he's recovered still. He just had to go one-on-one on the big downs. He was calling himself off the field because he had to go against Gilmore. Yeah. What a great player. And for New England, I think he'll be back, and he's a great player for them. Now, here's my kind of outside of the box pick for this next award. Coach of the Year was given to John Harbaugh. I'm good with it. Great year for those Ravens. Really revolutionary. Mm-hmm. But here's who I argue it should go to. Jacob, what team did we all think was going to go 0-16 this year?
0-16?
The Miami Dolphins.
Oh.
We were all looking at the Miami Dolphins roster, and their general manager and everyone there was like, we are selling off all of our pieces, and we are going to give away Kenyon Drake. You can have him. You can have Laramie Tunsil. You can have Kenny Stills. You can have Ryan Tannehill. Like, they were giving everything away. And you look at that squad, and preseason we were all like, team to grace a football field in years, but they 5-11 and beat the Patriots in the final week. That's my argument that Brian Flores deserved to be mentioned, because that team fought down the edge. I mean, they beat the Eagles too this year. I mean, if you look at that roster player for player, yikes. I mean, like, I think their overall in Madden was like a 66, like the lowest I've ever seen. And they somehow went 5-11. I'm just going to say it. Kudos to Brian Flores. He's my coach of the year if I'm putting somebody in terms of improving a team. What do you think about that?
That's shocking.
That's shocking.
Yeah, because, I don't think Miami's just a bad team, though.
Mm-hmm. But they're on their way.
They're on their
maybe.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be a couple more years till Miami's gonna have their chance at getting into the playoffs. But coach of the year, like Andy Reid.
Andy Reid. There you go. Yeah, he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I feel like everybody has always said Andy Reid could never win a playoff game. And then we look at last year where he makes it to the playoffs, and then he's face-to-face with the Patriots. That was a hard game to win there. And he's unable to win it. And then this year comes back, makes it all the way through the gauntlet, and gets the big win. Yes, it's all about the regular season, but at the same time, I feel like he was also instrumental in all those wins during the regular season. So definitely, I feel like the coach of the year should have went to Andy Reid, but who cares?
Fair enough.
I think he's much happy. Yeah, he's much happier with a trophy than a award from a committee who doesn't really
a
matter.
nice ribbon.
Yeah.
Coach, will you trade that Lombardi for this Coach of the Year award?
No,
Yes.
no.
No. Yeah. Also, quick mention. I think Jameis Winston was when it came to Defensive Player of the Year, man. He was responsible for 30 interceptions, 6 fumbles, and 5 defensive touchdowns this season. Incredible.
Nice.
We're never going to see such a prolific defensive force again. Oh, man. Poor guy.
That's right.
Oh, man. They got to figure that out in Tampa Bay. Let me give real quick, Jacob. Let's give our disappointments of the year award, like the one player who just disappointed you the most this season. And I'll go first. My disappointment of the year, Jacob, is pretty simple because this is a team that I think we were all talking about could be in the Super Bowl because their defense, they made the playoffs last year. Mitch Trubisky deserves my disappointment of the year award. This team was being talked about as a serious contender, and turn him into a joke. They finished 8-8. So that would be my disappointment of the year. I do think he has some potential, but the fact that he was picked before Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes is going to haunt him for the rest of his career. And it's not even his fault. He's just got to get better. But he's my disappointment of the year, if you ask me.
My disappointment of the year, I'm going to give this whole award to this team that was talking so much trash. Came into the beginning of the season so confident. We're at the end of the last season with a bad record, going in the next season saying they feel dangerous. I'm gonna give the most disappointment team and award to the Browns. Cleveland Browns.
There we go.
Are trash. I wanted them to be so good this year, and they were trash. They couldn't figure anything out. I forgot what the coach's name was because once I saw what was going on.
Kitchens,
yeah, Kitchens. So much faith. They brought in Baker Mayfield's guy. They said, "Okay, Baker, we're gonna trust you and this guy to make some big things happen in Cleveland," and nothing. And then, how do you not get OBJ? How do you not give him the ball?
I agree. I had him on my fantasy team, so you're preaching to the choir right now.
Come on. It's crazy to me that team was such a disaster after all
the stat. Sorry, I was looking at a stat that Rashard Higgins got more red zone targets than Odell Beckham Jr. did on the Browns.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I feel I forgot when I stopped paying attention to them, but I think it was halfway during the season when they weren't winning. And it was like, okay, this is just embarrassing. Like, the Baker Mayfield, I won't be surprised if he's nobody's talking about him in 3 years. Like,
wow, really? You're that down on him?
Are you kidding me? He walks into this season saying, "I feel dangerous." He rocks the mustache. He thinks he's hot garbage, and then he plays like hot garbage.
Oh no!
Yeah.
You see, here's the thing. I'm not giving up on him yet because I saw a lot of good things from him at OU and in his first year. But I tell you what, I'm just gonna say it. Compared to a lot of the quarterbacks I've seen, Baker Mayfield needs to get in shape for next year and get ready to roll because I think that team does have a lot of potential. I think they picked an interesting coach, but yeah, Baker Mayfield was up there on my disappointment of the year rankings too because I also drafted him in fantasy. So I was all in on the Browns. I was pushing him. I was pushing all my chips in the middle, and thus I didn't do very well.
Yeah, disappointment. The Browns, not a good team this year. Maybe not next year either.
I will say though, Jacob, they might be next year. I don't know. They're going to get Myles Garrett back at least, maybe.
Is that going to be enough? They might not use
kill Mason Rudolph. They might not. They might not use. I don't know. Yeah. The Browns, they're still a laughing stock for now. Yeah. Yeah, well, it was a great 100th year, though, I think, for the NFL. Jacob, what would you grade this season of NFL football, just in general for the whole season?
The whole season? I'm going to have to grade it out of 10. I'm going to grade it a 9.5.
9.5. So you're a big fan.
That's extremely high, but I feel like when you look at all the teams that were out there are a lot of teams that were coming back. Like you saw Drew Brees and the Saints. You saw the Rams kind of on the little bit. And then you have these new teams like the Ravens who just come out on fire. And then you have the Eagles who always find a way to get in. And then Pittsburgh with this weird kind of successful but not really season. It's Green Bay's the same way. It's just all this craziness going on this year, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the drama. I enjoyed watching the games, and I enjoyed the end result.
Yeah, I'm going to give it probably a 9. I thought it was an amazing season. It pains me to say this as a Patriots fan, but the old guard in the AFC of the Patriots, Broncos, Steelers, and Colts being those teams that you watch, those are on the way out. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to see the future of the NFL, which I've just got to say is outstandingly bright. You've got Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Patty Mahomes are going to be battling for the AFC for the next few years. Plus, you're going to add in that Joe Burrow is going to go to the Bengals, and I think Tua is going to go to the Dolphins, and they've got Sam Darnold out there in Miami. I think the AFC football is going to be the next couple, because I think that we're finally seeing that change of the guard out there with new and exciting players. And then in the NFC, we had some really good teams. And the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Packers, the Saints, the Vikings, all of these teams deserving a lot of credit for what they did this year. I think we're stepping into a really good age of football coming up. And I think things are starting to change. So it was a great year, a lot of competitive games. And one thing stayed constant. That's it. The Browns were terrible. That's about it. That's about all that stayed constant. Mm-hmm. It was very exciting week to week.
Hey, but
great year of football.
Yep, and people better, you didn't mention them, but people better watch out because that Bills Nation, that's real.
Oh yeah,
there. They are doing great things out there in Buffalo, and you gotta watch out because that's one of those teams that will sneak up on you, just like the Tennessee Titans did on everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And the Titans too, all Titans as well. They had a really good run themselves. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time to watch NFL football. I tell you what, if Trevor Lawrence lands in the AFC as well, the AFC is just going to be so much more stacked than the NFC when it comes to star quarterbacks when it comes next year. Just an interesting thing to look at. That's just kind of a side note. But, it's a great year of football, and it's been a lot of fun. And, I'm excited to be talking about the offseason and what goes on from here to see what next year looks like. So thank you, NFL, 100th year. Fantastic. So to finish the Ben and Jacob Sports Show, we're going to go ahead and talk about one of our favorite segments that's this time next year. So this is what is today, February 4th of next year. We'll be talking about this going on. Jacob, do you have your this time next year take?
I got it, Ben.
All right.
Are you ready?
Get at me with it.
You better hold on to your hat. You better put your socks on, seatbelt. Hold on to your socks, seatbelt yourself in, because this is going to be wild.
Inside the vehicle.
Yeah. Okay. This is the take. Next year, guess what we're going to be talking about?
What?
What team you got for the XFL?
You think it's going to blow up?
This year, I don't know a single name of a team of the XFL. But I tell you what, I think they might be able to draw in an audience. That XFL is looking pretty interesting, especially when you see the guys they picked up. I think one of the biggest guys they had on there that they picked up is Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee.
Oh, is he broadcasting it?
He's gonna be on the field doing whatever he wants, getting interviews with the players, talking smack to the refs. And
that'll be amazing.
If you're going to have any funny guy go down there and talk smack and just mess around, I think Pat McAfee is your guy. And it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be fun to see what actually happens. And I think if it does well this year, next year, we're going to be knowing the teams. We're going to have actual discussions on who we think who's going to win, or what we think this player is going to do, or maybe even, I don't know, because I haven't really looked at the rosters, but this could also be like a potential for the NFL to grab some star players. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the rosters, there's some interesting players. It's kind of, I don't know. We'll follow it a little bit maybe on this show. I know the Seattle Dragons exist because I thought it was a really cool team name. I saw all of the uniform leaks and they look nice. I mean, I'm just going to say it. It looks a lot better than the USFL last year. Oh, no. They were what were they? What were those guys called?
Dude, I got the playing cards AAF. Right here. The
AAF.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I told you about the story how I got those the AAF cards. We walked into a card shop and we saw them on the top shelf going for like 10 cents. And we're like, how funny would it be if we bought those right now? And then the guy turns to us and he's like, you guys want those? And we're like, sure. And he gave it to us for free.
Nice. Yeah. Hopefully the XFL goes better than the AAF. I'm going to guess it will, but that's going to be interesting. I'm excited about that. So this time next year, Jacob, we are going to be talking about the retirement of 4 players, 4 Hall of Fame players. Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, and Drew will retire this time next year.
Wow.
All 4. All of them are going into their last ride this year. And I think that most of them will do that. Berger stays with the Steelers. I think Brees stays with the Saints. I think Brady stays with the Patriots. But I think that Phillip Rivers is going to switch teams, and I believe that he will be the quarterback for a different team this next year. He'll have a 1-year run and then move on from there. If you ask me right now what team I think it's going to be, I'm not ruling out the Jaguars, and I think that it could have some potential on the Bears. So I think one of those 2 teams could make a move for Phillip Rivers, and he has a 1-year run. All of those guys retire next year, and we officially get that changing of the guard from the old style of QB to the new style of QB and the new way of football. That's my this time next year.
You know what, Ben? I think that's a great take right there. I think we're definitely going to see – we're definitely going to see something happen next year because especially when it comes to Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger. I think those 2 guys are definitely way too old school. They'll sit there in the pocket forever, and they'll go to the ground right away before they want to go outside the pocket. I don't know. I think football has become too dangerous of a game for them.
And I just want to say, low key, watch out for Cam Newton retiring about that time as well. I'm just gonna say it.
Oh no!
Feels like it could be the end for him, in my opinion.
Poor Cam. Poor Cam.
Apparently, he's gonna try and play one more year. Yeah, poor Cam. But
I thought Lamar Jackson was gonna be a Cam Newton, and then he proved everybody wrong this year, where he's all like, "Oh no, like I'm more than flash and running around."
That's the thing. Cam Newton was really good, though, because he got his team to the Super Bowl and won MVP, but his body's just breaking down now. He took too many big hits.
Yeah.
See. Yeah, but that was the Ben and Jacob Sports Show. Really appreciate it. Jacob, any last thoughts about the NFL season or anything coming up?
No, it was just a great season. That's really all I have to say about it. Ready for next year.
Besides the Patriots not winning. Yeah, ready for next year.
Watch out the Broncos and Drew Lock. They're going to take it. It all.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't hate Drew Lock. We'll find out.
I do. His biggest highlight is rapping on the sideline.
What? Do?
His biggest highlight is rapping on the sideline.
And you hate him because of that? What about that Texans game they played well in?
Who cares? The Texans didn't get to the Super Bowl.
That's true. That's true. So, Jacob Sandoval out on Drew Lock. So, if you're Denver, are you trying to make a move for a veteran QB, or are you sticking with Drew Lock?
I think you gotta just sell everything, start brand new.
Oh no! All right. Pessimistic view from Jacob Sandoval right there. Well, thanks for tuning in to Ben and Jacob Sports. We really appreciate it. Go check out the rest of our stuff right here on Off the Air Productions. We've got the Voiced Opinion, and we got some more stuff coming up. So be sure to check us out on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Spotify, and anywhere else you can find us. What's our website again? offtheairproductions.wordpress.com as well for our blogs.
Yes, sir.
Check that stuff out. We really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun to talk sports, and we'll be back the next time the news comes.